Hello. Sorry for being late again. Today, somehow my alarms didn't go off. I think I didn't set it or I turned it off by mistake. Yeah. But yeah, okay. Oh, wow. Now we're at this fifth poem, right? So if you remember, working through this series of 5 poems by Du Fu, and the concept is very interesting. So he said uh visiting 5 monuments dedicated to specific historical characters. Yeah. And well, let me just check my internet, make sure it's the fast. Okay, right. So Du Fu was in this he's just visiting these monuments, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna write, and these monuments are all related to specific historical characters. And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna write like a poem each about each of these monuments. So it's about the monument, but it's also about the people, the historical figures, but it's also about himself. So pretty crazy, pretty cool. And today we're at this last one. It's about Zhuge Liang, the famous strategist from the Three Kingdoms period. And the fourth one was about Zhuge Liang's was about Liu Bei, with who Zhuge Liang was serving. So I thought it'd be cool if we read this final one and then we look back again at the Liu Bei one to see if we have any more insight about that after this poem. So why don't we start with this? Okay. So thoughts of old time 5. 永怀古迹无首之物，诸葛大名垂宇宙，宗臣遗像，素野清高，三分割据，迂筹策，万古云霄一羽毛，伯仲之间见一缕，指挥若定，失萧曹，运遗憾作，终难复。志决身兼军务劳。Zhuge's prestige transcends the earth. There is only reverence for his face, yet his will, among the 3 kingdoms at war, was only as one feather against a flaming sky. He was brother of men like Yi, Yi and Lü, and in time would have surpassed the greatest of all statesmen. Though he knew there was no hope for the house of Han, yet he wielded his mind for it, yielded his life. Well, that's pretty interesting. So let's just check the context for this. Like, he didn't really mention the place, but I think it was mentioned in the last one. I mean, he wrote a poem about this place before, right? Just some kind of temple, this Wuhou I think. This for Zhuge Liang. So he has talked about this place before. And yeah, let's look at the specifics here, maybe the references. Okay. So, Zhuge's prestige transcends the earth. So, well, that's pretty straightforward, right? But maybe it's a bit of a exaggeration to say it transcends the earth. Well, I guess now there are Chinese people in space, right? Like astronauts. So I guess now it's technically true. It's literally true, but I mean during his time that's kind of a stretch, yeah. All right, then there's only reference for his face. Meaning like when people see his like portraits and stuff, and then they all think like, and then people, he's widely respected, I think, like universally quite respected on all sides. And then next, right? Yet his will among the three kingdoms at war was only as one feather against a flaming sky. So I think this is very interesting because even though there's the first two lines sort of emphasizes how important and how great he is, the next two lines sort of says that despite all that, he is still just one person now, which is quite crazy, I think, because as in, well, I think at least this is a reflection of his own thoughts, right? He's like saying, well, at least first, this makes the first part very interesting. I think what this is saying is that like, it's a reflection of himself saying that, it's a reflection of his own helplessness. If you remember, the context is like, there's this war and there's this rebellion, and then once that has been sort of settled, there's still like a lot of like local conflicts breaking out. And so he feels very helpless. Du Fu himself feels very helpless because he wants to do something, but he's not very effective. And I think this is really his own worries coming out. Yeah. Yeah. And next, right? He was a brother of men like Yi and Lu. So who are these people? So this, I suspect they're famous generals, but let's see, this Yi, I guess, is a, it's a really famous politician, I suppose, in the 1550 BC. This is the year he died, 1550 BC. Right, so at first I thought it was a contemporary figure, like in Zhuge Liang's own time. But I guess this is like, just to say he's following in this guy's footstep. Well, you know he's smart because his head is huge. Like, wow. Okay. This guy, Liu Shang or Jiang Ziya. Oh, this is really famous. Right? This guy helped to establish the Zhou dynasty. In Zhou dynasty is kind of like everyone loves it. At least the first part. Everyone's like, oh, Zhou dynasty is like, we need to return to that ideal time. So yeah, let me just check if this Yi guy actually, it's the same idea. He helped overthrow the Xia dynasty and establish the Shang. So yeah, okay, so these are both famous I guess ministers who helped establish a new dynasty. So he was and saying that he was brother of men like Yi and Lu. This is saying that he has the potential, Zhuge Liang has the potential to actually help Liu Bei succeed and really to just establish the new I guess a new dynasty, even though Liu Bei was trying to revive the old dynasty. Yeah. Right. So he was a brother of men like Yi and Lu, and in time would have surpassed the greatest of all statesmen. Though he knew there was no hope for the House of Han. But the House of Han is the what Liu Bei is fighting for, right? He is in the House of Han because he's related to the Han royal family. And at the end, yet he wielded his mind for it, yielded his life. So this is kind of weird. even though he's brothers to the people, metaphorically, of these people who successfully started a new dynasty, but Zhuge Liang, he says that there was no hope for the House of Han, and that Zhuge Liang knew it. So I guess he is a brother of these men in that he's equally talented, and maybe would have even surpassed them. But because of circumstances, he just wasn't able to realize that full potential. And still, even though he knows that, he still gave it his best and gave up his life for that. That's really interesting. And maybe because, so he could have done something great, right? But for some reason, maybe the side he chose was not the best one. And because of that, he was only as one feather against the flaming sky. Is that why? I guess regardless, you can see really two seemingly opposing sentiments here, right? On the one hand, Du Fu is acknowledging that Zhuge Liang is like a genius, really talented, and like he could have done a lot of great things. I mean, he has done a lot of great things, right? But he could have like accomplished even more and had more lasting impact. But at the same time, he also says that, but Zhuge Liang did not achieve that much, and his cause was hopeless. And yeah, so I don't know. I think it's pretty crazy poem. Like, just it's definitely very complex. Like a lot of he's really working through something here. It feels like, yeah. Let's look at the famous critics and see if that helps us understand it a bit more. So for number 5, this person does also mention how many twists there are in this poems, just within the 56 characters, right? It's really cool. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I want to check something. I think there's a minor translation, maybe not error, but yeah. Interesting. Gaudi is. Oh, okay. So these two are historical generals. Okay, right. I was a bit confused, but so when it says this line, when it says he will have surpassed the greatest of statesmen, he actually name drops like two specific generals or ministers, and they were involved in establishing the Han dynasty initially. Yeah. So at first I thought this Tao was Cao Cao, in which case that would have been Zhuge Liang's own time, but these are actually people before his time. So okay, so then actually the references here does not substantially change the pointer. Yeah. But yeah, so it's sort of the same as the previous line where it says like he was as good as the people like Yi and Lu, right? Like people who successfully establish a new dynasty. Yeah. I think this does make me think that in the end the difference was just luck. Like he could have had a winning chance, but in the end, I think only in the end then he knew that there was no hope. Like the way things turned out due to specific circumstances. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, then nothing very useful from the famous critics. Yeah. And yeah, so I guess my take on this, just to wrap this up before you go back to the previous one, is that yeah, I guess he does think it's largely up to fate or really things out of your control, right? Like this Zhuge Liang had everything going, as in he is no less deserving or no less capable than all these other successful ministers, statesmen. But it didn't work out for him. Even though it didn't work out, he still tried his best, right? And maybe because of that, he is still renowned throughout the world. Yeah. I think he's also seeing a similar situation, right? Or he thinks of himself like this also. He thinks he's quite talented. He's not being employed well. He feels like maybe it's not his fault, but if he tries his best, maybe he will still be remembered for it though. So yeah, pretty interesting. I can yeah. Wow. Just isn't it shocking how much he's doing within this short span of the poem? It really is just 56 characters, but he's talking about such a complicated topic, about historical character, but he's also talking about himself at the same time. That's like really genius. Like, wow. Like, yeah, really, really well deserved his title of like best poet ever. Okay, let's go back a bit just for this previous one. Then on Liu Bei, I'll just read through the English again really quickly. There wasn't as much to add to this as I had thought, but let's just look at it again. Okay, so the ruler of Shu had his eyes on Wu and progressed as far as the Three Gorges. In the year of his demise too, he was in the Palace of Eternal Peace. The blue-green banner can be imagined on the empty mountain. The Jade Palace is a void in a deserted temple. In the pines of the ancient shrine, aquatic cranes nest. At summer and winter festivals, the comers are village elders. the Marshal Marquis Memorial Shrine is ever nearby. In union, sovereign and minister share the sacrifices together. So the Marshal Marquis Memorial is the next poem, is the memorial to Zhuge Liang. Okay. So it's pretty interesting that he doesn't spend any time describing the monument in the final one, but sort of just does it in this fourth one. I guess to leave more space in the next one to talk about what he wants to say lah. And I think maybe that's why this last part feels a bit too like random to me. Like it's not really on theme here, right? Since the theme seems to be like the transience of time and how greatness is sort of decays. But I guess you could also read this last part as saying that, oh, even though these things decay, it is their loyalty to each other that is really, even now, still survives. Yeah. But I don't really see how this relates to the other themes. Yeah. So I'm inclined to read this more as like preparation for the very next poem, just so he can have more space to talk about what he wants to. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was a very long first poem of the day. Okay, so maybe we can start with the next one then, by Liu Changqing. Oh, so those are the last of our Du Fu poems. So we're gonna move on to like a lot of other poets now. So cool. Why don't we start reading this then? On leaving Guijiang, again to Xue and Liu. 江州重别薛六柳八二人外，生涯岂料成忧找，世事空如雪醉歌。江上月明胡雁过，淮南木落楚山多。寄身且喜沧州近，故隐无如白发合。今日隆中人共老，惠君犹浅甚风波。Dare I, at my age, accept my summons, knowing of the world's ways only wine and song, only the moon edge over the moon edge mountain, over the moon edge river, come wild geese from the Tartars, and the thinner the leaves along the Huai, the wider the southern mountains. I ought to be glad to take my old bones back to the capital, but what am I good for in that world, with my few white hairs? As bent and decrepit as you are, I am ashamed to thank you when you caution me that I may encounter thunderbolts. He's going back to the capital. Interesting. So at first, apparently he was deployed at somewhere as like a governor, but then that place sort of got conquered by one of the many armies after the rebellion, I guess. And so then he's sort of moving back to somewhere else, maybe not the capital, but it's going back to somewhere else to like, I don't know. But here he says, apparently he got demoted again. Did he get demoted for losing his territory? Maybe. Okay, so these are two competing theories. Because you see, one is in 782, one is 758. These are it's like 24 years apart. Yeah. But this first one is, I guess, the more common one, where his state was lost, his territory was lost. Okay, so let's see again. Dare I, at my age, accept my summons? So I mean, at my age, it seems more sense it will be the first one, right? Because if it's a difference of 20 something years, he must be much younger in year 758. So okay, let's go with the first interpretation, the first proposed time of writing. And knowing of the world's ways, only wine and song. Over the moon-edged river come wild geese from the Tartars. And the thinner the leaves along the Huai, the wider the southern mountains. I ought to be glad to take my old bones back to the capital. But what am I good for in that world with my few white hairs? As bent as and decrepit as you are, I'm ashamed to thank you when you caution me that I may encounter thunderbolts. But here it is actually like waves when they say thunderbolts. So it's clearly metaphorical for something, right? So it does seem like he's going back to the capital, but then they're worried about political troubles there, like just politics. So like the metaphor of thunderbolts and like waves, right? Not sure what to read out of this. But okay, he is summoned back, so probably to the capital. And I mean, when he says he knows the only wine and song, I mean, he's obviously being humble here, right? Then, but the fact that he is expressing some doubt is like, am I ready to go back? Yeah. I'm not sure the doubt is real or fake though. Is he just being humble? Okay. And then I ought to be glad to take my old bones back, but she's just saying he's super old, right? Like, so another question here. And as dent and decrepit as you are, I am ashamed to thank you. It's kind of random. Like it sounds like he's insulting him. But yeah, and apparently it is a good translation. The 隆中 apparently it also just means so the appearance of being older. Yeah. Okay. So they're ashamed to thank him. And then when he's cautioned that he may encounter thunderbolts. I didn't get it there. Let's look at the famous critics. Oh, there aren't any? Huh. Why is he ashamed? I don't understand. Like, maybe he's just ashamed because he's so old already. Presumably he would know at this point, but then he feels embarrassed that other people still need to warn him about this, and that people maybe still think that he's very naive at his age, even though he's thankful that they're still letting him know. Sure, I'll go with that. I know, very, very strange poem. I don't quite get this. So, Okay. Just looking at if you have any comments. Okay. If not, then why don't we move on to this next one then? So by Liu Changqing again. I'm passing Jia Yi's house in Changsha. 长沙过甲乙宅，3年折换此西池。万古为留楚客碑。秋草独寻人去后，寒林空见日斜时。汉文有道，恩犹薄。江水无情，调起之。寂寂江山摇落处。联军何事到天涯？ Here, where you spent your 3 years exile, to be mourned in Chu 10,000 years, can I trace your footprint in the autumn grass, or only slanting sunlight through the bleak woods? If even good Emperor Wen was cold-hearted, could you hope that the Dao River Xiang would understand you? These desolate waters, these taciturn mountains, when you came like me, so far away. So apparently he was exiled, maybe self-imposed. So let's see the context for this. Hmm. Okay, so he was kind of exiled and that he was demoted and sent to this random place. So for 3 years. And yeah, this Jia Yi is a very famous politician in the Emperor Wen of the Han dynasty. So not the Zhou one, but the Han. Now there's a lot of Emperor Wens, even if it's the same character. So yeah. So let's look at this again. But again, if you recall this, Liu Changqing does have some political troubles, getting demoted like twice, I think, in his life. Yeah. Okay, so here, where you've spent your 3 years exile, to be mourned in Chu 10,000 years. Okay, then, can I trace your footprint in the autumn grass, or only slanting sunlight through the bleak woods? That's interesting. If even good Emperor Wen was good cold-hearted, can you hope that the Dao River Xiang would understand you? Wow, that's really nice. That's a really good line. These desolate waters, these taciturn mountains, when you came like me so far away. So if could they understand you when you came like me so far away? Okay, wow, that's really, the idea is pretty classic. It's like thinking of a historical character, trying to find some solace in their fate. And he says, well, I think here he's emphasizing the, I don't know, like the pain of it. Here is like, who could understand him, right? If even this good emperor banished him or sent him to this place. And now he has like these desolate waters, these taciturn mountains. So just, yeah, just very lonesome, right? Desolate, taciturn. And I guess the good thing about this Liu Changqing is that at least he can think back to this Jia Yi and he can trace his footprints, right? He has someone to find solace in, even if they're separated in like by centuries. Yeah. Whereas maybe Jia Yi himself would not have this privilege. So that's interesting. And then this last part is just that. Yeah, I mean, this is largely an expression of, I imagine, Liu Changqing's own feelings, but he's trying to express it and also simultaneously find some sort of reassurance by seeing it, putting it through the life of Jia Yi. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Heard quite a few comments here. I think I really like this line. I really like some lines in this, even though I said like it's kind of a classic theme. So didn't see anything useful in the comments, but I felt I like this, just this part. If even good Emperor Wen was cold-hearted, could you hope that the dull river Xiang would understand you? So I like this line. I thought this was really good. So yeah, a good poem. Nothing super useful in the comments here, I believe. I mean, most of this stuff is, I find, pretty kind of obvious, right? At this point, it's like he's talking about someone, but he's really talking about himself. Like, yeah, so I think that's our starting point. Now that we're like 200, I guess we're reaching our 300th poem today. But misleadingly, the anthology has 320 poems, so we still have two more days to go. Yeah. Okay, so another one by Liu Changqing, An Evening View of the City of Youzhou. After coming from Hankou to Parrot Island, a poem sent to my friend Governor Yuan. 自夏口至殷州，希望岳阳寄园中成。So, 汀州无浪复无烟，楚客相思一渺然。汉口夕阳斜渡鸟，洞庭秋水远连天。孤城背岭寒吹角，独树临江夜泊船。甲乙上书幽汉事，长沙折去古今连。So you see Jia is mentioned here again. Oh. No ripples in the river, no mist on the islands, yet the landscape is blurred toward my friend in Chu. Birds in the slanting sun cross Hankou, and the autumn sky mingles with Lake Dongting. From a bleak mountain wall, the cold tone of a bugle reminds me more of a ruined fort, that Jia Yi's loyal plea to the House of Han banned him to Changsha to be an exile. Okay, so yeah, you say you need to watch this later since you're kind of tired, so no worries. And yeah, go take a good rest, and I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, and yeah, I'll just keep going on for this. Yeah, thanks for coming up anyway. So okay, let's keep going with this then. So this, say you remember Changsha. Yeah, so, and if you remember Lake Dongting as well, so there's quite a few poems that take place here. So why don't we look at the context first? Not really sure, but it seems related to just now since he's talking about Jia Yi again. So his friend is at Lake Dongting. So this famous lake where poets always write poems. So his friend is at Lake Dongting, but then he is the poet himself now. He's at Yingwu Zhou. Okay. So also FYI, there are no famous critics for this. So because we're on our own. Okay, so no ripples in the river, no mist on the islands, yet the landscape is blurred toward my friend in Chu. I think his friend would be this Yue, right? is Governor Yuan, rather. Governor Yuan. Then birds in the slanting sun cross Hankou, and the autumn sky mingles with Lake Dongting. So that's where his friend is. So I guess he's looking across the landscape at where his friend is. And then from a bleak mountain wall, the cold tone of a bugle reminds me, moored by a ruined fort. So again, we talked about this yesterday. The bugle signifies like military, right? So there's war sort of going on, and then of course the ruined fort, right? And then finally, the Jia Yi's loyal plea to the House of Han banned him to Changsha to be an exile. That's kind of depressing. So again, right, Jia Yi, really good officials, scholar, but when he's just trying to give good advice to the emperor, he sort of just got demoted and sent like far away. And this is certainly not sorry, let me just see the comments. You said, oh, you're staying here, but your attention might lapse. Okay. Then no worries then. Then yeah, just no pressure on you. Okay, so yeah. I think for this, right, it's kind of what's the emotion here? It does sound he's kind of resentful. At least the last part, right? He does seem kind of resentful. Or maybe it's just a sense of injustice. He's saying like, even though actually I don't know what is he saying? Like, I guess I mean certainly not super happy if there's war and like he got randomly or he thinks he got unjustly like demoted and sent away. He's clearly not very happy, but yeah, I think looking closer at this front part of the scenery might help make things closer. So he says, here is very calm and clear, right? The place he's at. But the landscape is blurred toward my friend in Chu. Okay. Well, it sounds like he has some inner peace here, but maybe his friend is still in some kind of trouble. But it's like, even though he has some peace, he knows that the world is still not doing so well and that he didn't deserve this. Yeah. Okay, that's kind of my read. Oh, there's no famous critics, so I can't really check, but that's what I would think though. Like, if he's emphasizing as in he's emphasizing both his own sort of lack of turmoil, I guess, but also maybe this is momentary, yeah, or this is just yeah, like there is still some resentment or maybe some worries. I don't know. I don't really like this, I think, or I'm not really feeling it. Oh, you said this is a long wish you were here. I guess these poems are like a postcards, right? They're just like, well, now because they can't like send photos back then, they just like describe it in words. And then it's just, I guess it is like wish you were here, right? That's a good point. That's a good point. Wow. Yeah, that's really funny. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Then maybe next one. Okay, now we have a different poet, 钱起, to my friend at the capital, Secretary Pei. So 赠阙下配舍人，二月黄鹂飞上林，春虫子径小阴阴，长乐钟声花外尽，龙池柳色日中深，阳和不散穷途恨。萧汉常怀朋日新，现复10年犹未遇。休将白发对华簪，or 花簪 maybe. Finches flash yellow through the imperial grove of the forbidden city, pale with spring dawn. Flowers muffle a bell in the palace of bliss, and rain has deepened the dragon lake willows. But spring is no help. To a man bewildered, would be like a cloud upholding the light of heaven, yet whose poems, 10 years refused, are shaming these white hairs held by the petaled pin. So what's the context again? First thing we check, right? So this apparently this guy's position, his friend Pei, right? Okay, that's not very helpful. It's just someone who's near the emperor, I guess. So every day they have to follow the emperor, and they are asked about like very important affairs of state. So their as jurisdiction is quite broad, like what they're allowed to work on. Yeah. So that's interesting. So why don't we look at this again? So finches flash yellow through the imperial grove of the forbidden city, pale with spring dawn. Flowers muffle a bell in the palace of bliss, and rain has deepened the dragon lake willows. Okay, so that's describing the scene, right? Then the second half, but spring is no help to a man bewildered, would be like a cloud upholding the light of heaven. What? What's he talking about? Hmm. Hmm. Okay, so apparently the standing in the whose poems are refused. This is a reference to the imperial exam. So I guess just taking the exam for 10 years, I guess. So is he talking about him who took the exam for 10 years, or? Okay, 10 is just if this is just to say it's a long time, right? But it's just this is for himself. So he's saying, I actually want to serve as well. Okay, so this is a poem asking like, can you please get me a job? Okay, let's start again then, at least from here, right? But spring is no help to a man bewildered, would be like a cloud upholding the light of heaven. Yet whose poems, 10 years refused, are shaming these white hairs held by the petaled pin. So he's just saying like, yeah, he is just saying, please get me a job, right? Okay. but in a nice way, in a in a subtle way, I guess. Hmm. Right. So he's saying like, even though it's describing the scenery and all that, but he says like, oh, I'm so old, but I don't have a job, official position. That obviously he's implying something, right? Since he's writing this to someone who has the year of the emperor. So yeah, interesting. Hmm. I guess this is when he was rather young, but he says he has white hair. So I don't know, man. If you're like really old, I don't think maybe you should just give up and get another job, eh? Like, if it's clearly not working out. Hmm. But but it's a pretty decent poem, I guess. It's not I don't think there's a really nice message. I don't know. Okay, well, you said that's pretty cute. Mm, yeah, that's true. Hmm. Maybe I'm being too critical, but I'm like, I mean, it's not like he's just saying, give me a job. He is saying it in a pretty roundabout way, in a pretty nice way. Yeah. You say he has hopes, attachments. That's true. Well, gotta applaud his determination and networking skills. Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, you know what? But let's see the context. I think he did get to do some uh okay, he actually did well. It says when he was 29. Uh so he did get like a pretty good like examination ranking. And he did do all these like different uh positions. So I guess he does pretty well. Oh, you said I think they were saying something else was cute. Okay. Maybe it's one of the others, the scene before. Okay. Hmm. Yeah, sorry. Sometimes I really miss the live chat, so I'll try to be more alert. Yeah. But I guess if it worked, then good for him. And he wasn't that old, right? Like, if he was like 29, uh, right? So okay, that's not bad. Okay. And you said, is the wish you were here comment that was cute. I see, I see. Yeah, I guess that is pretty cute, right? Yeah, the postcard vibes, right? Okay, let's see if this next one. Oh, this is not a happy poem, I think. Let me see. How many? Okay, okay, this would be more of a postcard vibes poem then. Right. So let's look at this one first. Yeah. So my friends Li Dan and Yuan Xi 即李丹人兮，去年花里逢君别，今日花开又一年。世事茫茫难自科，春愁暗暗独成眠。身多疾病思田里，巴有流亡会凤前。闻道日来相问询，西楼望月几回人。We met last among flowers we parted, and here, a year later, there are flowers again. But with ways of the world too strange to foretell, spring only brings me grief and fatigue. I am sick, and I think of my home in the country, ashamed to take pay while so many are idle. In my western tower, because of your promise, I have watched the full moons come and go. So what's the context of this? He's okay, so he sort of just moved to a new place and then a different province, I guess. And he arrived in the spring, so in the fall, and then his friends, who he always trades poems with, they once asked people to ask on him to check if he's okay. And so he wrote this poem as thanks. Okay, that's really cool. We met last among flowers we parted, and here a year later, there are flowers again. So he sort of settled down at his new post at this point. But with ways of the world too strange to foretell, spring only brings me grief and fatigue. So here it also mentions that it's a pretty rough time. Like there's a lot of rebellion, and the emperor had to like escape and only returned sometime later. So these is pretty interesting times, let's say. Yeah, so then I am sick and I think of my home in the country, ashamed to take pay while so many are idle. Right. In my western tower, because of your promise, I have watched the full moons come and go. So what's the western tower here? Okay. So because he heard that, remember that these friends send like someone to like just to say hi, right? Send their regards or something, right? So this guy, he said he heard that you two want to come, and because of that person, right, who passed on the message. So he always stands on the western tower, viewing the moon and watching the full moons come and go. So meaning at night, he often goes there to see if anyone's coming and like thinking whether his friends will visit or yeah. So that's really nice. Right. Right. So I think the first part. So I guess the emotional state here is quite nuanced. Or not really. As in he's just giving them a report of how he feels. He's like, okay, it's been a year, I've settled down. Things are kind of terrible. But amid that, I still miss you a lot. That's interesting, right? Like that's really cool how like even though so much like bad shit is going on, like he still misses them so much that he actually spends so much time like waiting for them, wondering if they'll come. I think it's really a sign of their friendship that yeah, he misses them so much. That's really cool. Okay. Oh, you say you love the feelings from these poems. Yeah. I think Chinese poetry really, perhaps, some of the best in the world. Yeah. It's very much worth learning Chinese to read these. Yeah. Yeah. Like just I think one of the strongest poetic traditions in the world are like Chinese poetry. So okay. So let's look at some of the critics. And I guess this is also a sign of how much poetry matters, right? Like it's a big part of Chinese culture, just like so many like commentaries like just on one poem. Yeah. Okay, so looking through. Yeah, this is pretty cool that even though he's a official, he feels bad taking about his salary when people are sort of unemployed, right? So he's a good person, really is. This is such a good point. This kind of poem is just like kind of 家常话. It's kind of normal, right? It's like he's just updating them on his life. But so you might think, okay, this is very familiar, kind of almost basic. But even though you read it when you were young, you will still not get sick of it until you are old. So I think that's a testament to how well written this is. Even though, yeah, like I was also thinking like he's not saying anything very original here. Like what he's trying to convey is not super unique. But I think it does, I don't know, just very solid though. Just a very solid poem that you will enjoy reading again and again. Yeah. I think that's a very, very good observation. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I think I like this poem a lot more now than when I first read it. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So now we're in our last 4 poems of the day. Let me just close some tabs and okay, so we were here, right? Yeah, exactly. Okay, by Han Hong, inscribed in the Temple of the Wandering Genie. So it's obviously not a genie, it's a deity, immortal, right? So 同题仙游观，仙台初见五重楼，风物凄凄，宿雨收，山色遥怜晴树晚。真声劲爆汉宫秋，疏松影落空潭静。细草相衔小洞幽，何用别寻方外去？人间意自有丹丘。I face high over this enchanted lodge, the court of the 5 cities of heaven, and I see a countryside blue and still after the long rain. The distant peaks and trees of Qin merge into twilight, and Han Palace, washing stones make their autumnal echoes. Thin pine shadows brush the outdoor pulpit, and grasses blow their fragrance into my little cave. Who need be craving a world beyond this one? Here, among men, are the purple hills. Okay, interesting. And you said, Jose says, the power of simplicity. So this is about the previous poem, right? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess the power of simplicity in my response is just me saying yeah and nodding. But I mean, it's true. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the oh, there's no context for this. So what's he doing? What's happening? I guess he is on some sort of temple. Here this is he's in some kind of observatory or just some sort of tall spot in order to see the view. Right? So I face high over this enchanted lodge, the court of the 5 cities of heaven. So what is that? Okay, so these are just rooms in those Taoist lodgings, I guess. So these are where, I guess he's near like a Taoist temple. Okay, and I see a countryside blue and still after the long rain. The distant peaks and the tree of Qin merge into twilight, and Han Palace, washing stones, make their autumnal echoes. Not sure what that means. So I guess people are washing their clothes even with these really old washing stones, I guess. And thin pine shadows brush the outdoor pulpit, and grasses blow their fragrance into my little cave. Who need be craving a world beyond this one? Here among men are the purple hills. I think here is a play, I guess it's a poem about calmness, about like, just like having a distance from the world and sort of, I guess almost like a meditative state. Yeah. That's interesting. So he observes far away all these things, but he is sort of in like you might say a more spiritual place, right? And it's more separated from this daily life of, like just washing their clothes, like these more daily chores. He's separate from that. And he's in a little cave. And there he says, so he feels like he's in a different world, right? And he says, why would I need a world beyond this one? And here are the purple hills. Let me just check what that means. Okay, that purple hills are just a place where the immortals live. So he's saying that he feels like he's in somewhere like that. Okay, I mean, I have definitely felt something like this. Like, if you just go to I have been to places where it feels like I'm in a different world. But unfortunately, many of those places are now tourist attractions, so they're filled with people. But I'm sure there are many great places out there where you can, have some solitude and like, feel feel like you're closer to heaven, I guess. Yeah. This is a pretty cool moment he's capturing. And you say, you're so glad that I'm here to explain and help to understand, and it really adds to the appreciation. So, oh, thanks. Honestly, I'm also trying to figure these poems out myself, right? And I guess doing this live stream actually makes me read it, because I know if I'm on my own, I would not take the time to go through every poem and like track down all the references. So yeah, I'm glad you like it, and I hope to do more things like this in the future. Yeah, really, it's been a lot more fun than I originally thought. So yeah. Okay, so just looking through these comments real quick. Famous critics. I don't think there's much here. So think, yeah, maybe let's move on to the next ones. Oh, okay, right. So it's 3 more. I wasn't sure if I miscounted. Okay, so next by this Huang Fu Ran. Well, for Chinese learners, right, if there's 2 characters with the 3rd tone, right? So there's like this tone, right? So then the one that comes before has to change to like the 2nd tone, like the rising tone. So I was like trying to figure out this 黄甫冉. Okay. So 春思莺啼燕语报新年，马巴龙堆路几千，家住层城林汉苑，心随明月到湖天，机中景字论长恨，楼上花枝笑独眠，未问天容斗车骑，何时反配乐俨然. Finch notes and swallow notes tell the new year, but so far are the town of the horse and the dragon mount, from this our house, from these walls and Han gardens, that the moon takes my heart to the Tartar sky. I have woven in the frame endless words of my grieving, yet this petal bough is smiling now on my lonely sleep. Oh, ask General Dou when his flags will come home, and his triumph be carved on the rock of Yanran Mountain. That's not what I was expecting from a poem called Spring Thoughts. Like usually when you say spring thoughts, you'll be like, oh, describing the spring and like more kind of general stuff. But this looks like super specific. Let's see, what's the context for this? Oh, interesting. He is a currently just a very talented poet. Yeah. That's all the context we got. Okay, so this is like he's taking a perspective of a woman and about how she wishes that the war can end early and her husband can have some accomplishments and come back. Okay, that's interesting. So she is in Han and he is in Hu. Okay, that's pretty interesting. So Finch notes and swallow notes tell the new year. So this is just the sounds of the finches and the swallows like chirping, right? And they tell the new year. But so far are the town of the horse and the dragon mount. So the dragon mount is a desert, and the horse, what was it, horse town? Town of the horse is where it's just a place where, I don't know, there was a war fought. So I guess this is where she is it? And so I think she's in the town of the horse and the husband is in Dragon Mount. Okay, then next, from this our home, from these walls and Han gardens, that the moon takes my heart to the Tartar sky. So this should be where the husband is. So from their house to where the husband is. I have woven in the frame endless words of my grieving, yet this petal bough is smiling now on my lonely sleep. Okay. Then, oh, ask General Dou when his flags will come home. Is this? So this Dou is actually a historical person. So it's just a historical general. And when he came back, he actually like as a record of his victory, there was an inscription on this Yanran mountain. So he's just using, the poet is using this as an allusion to just to say like, for the persona of the wife, right? Because this is written from a perspective of the wife missing the husband. So the persona of the wife is saying like, oh, basically saying, oh, when will you come back? And you know, maybe have something to show for it. Just like General Dou had this huge monument to him. So that's really interesting. At first, I thought this was from his own perspective. And so he's just like, I don't know, commenting on some like politics and stuff. But it looks like it is kind of a more relatable poem, right? It's just like, it's a new year. It's like new year, new beginnings, right? But my husband is still far away at war, and like, I wish you would come back, and I hope that, you will be safe, but also you will have some accomplishments from this whole war. Yeah, and there was a very interesting note, I think, on the page which said like 春思. So usually it's like spring thoughts, but 思 can also mean like to miss. So here it's like spring thoughts, but also like spring longing. You can say like, I was missing her husband now. Yeah, so this is pretty cool. There aren't any famous critics for this poem, so that's not great, but we'll live. But I do quite like this now, knowing like what angle this is going for. I think it's really cool that it's like trying to, I don't know, yeah, I do appreciate that this from perspective of a wife. I think it's kind of interesting. And you can tell, right? Like this, the telltale is like, because she's weaving, it's like, apparently in that time, all women weave. But when they say like, I'm weaving, okay, this is from a perspective of a woman. Yeah. But this is pretty cool. Okay, so maybe I'll move on to the next one for now. This is by 卢纶晚次鄂州。云开远见汉阳城，犹是孤帆一日程。孤客昼眠知浪静，舟人夜语绝潮声。三乡愁宾逢秋色，万里归心对月明。旧业已随征战尽，更堪江上鼓皮声。Far off in the clouds stand the walls of Hanyang, another day's journey from my lone sail. Though a river merchant ought to sleep in this calm weather, I listen to the tide at night and voices of the boatmen. My thin hair grows wintry, like the triple xiang patterns. 3,000 miles my heart goes, homesick with the moon. But the war has left me nothing of my heritage, and oh, the pang of hearing these drums along the river. So, oh, did I say the title? A Night Mooring at Wuchang, 夜次鄂州. Okay. So what's the context for this? So this is before, no, this is the front part of the Anlushan rebellion. So, yeah, because of the war, the poet was forced to like just leave his home and go to somewhere to seek safety. And he was once in several places. So this is part of his journey. Okay, so far off in the clouds stand the walls of Hanyang, another day's journey from my lone sail. Though a river merchant ought to sleep in this calm weather, I listen to the tide at night and voices of the boatmen. Wow. So it's in the middle of the night. It's pretty chill. Like it's a calm day, calm evening, where he can't sleep and he's just listening to sounds of the waves and like the boatman like speaking. And my thin hair grows wintry, like the triple xiang streams. So that's the three xiang. It's just three branches of the Xiang River, and apparently he has passed through those, which is why he's thinking of that he passed through them as part of his journey. Okay, and then 3,000 miles my heart goes, homesick with the moon. So this is his heart goes back to his home, right, which is far away. But the war has left me nothing of my heritage. And oh, the pang of hearing these drums along the river. Are the drums? So the drums are military drums. Yeah. Interesting. So here it says that the drums might be imaginary. And I think it makes sense because if you could hear the drums, then I don't think the fishermen, the boatmen would just be chilling and talking. But I guess it could also be like a military drill of the home forces, like just drilling. So it's not a real war happening then. As in there's not a actual fighting happening nearby, right? Yeah. Wow, but this is like, I suspect, or I imagine this is how all those refugees feel, right? It's just like, wow. But the war has left me nothing of my heritage, and oh, the pang of hearing these drums along the river. Wow, damn. Really, war really is hell. Yeah. Okay, maybe we can look at some famous comments. Hmm. Hmm. Here it says his sort of like he's very frightened, and so it's like he's not can't really calm himself down. Yeah. Which is why maybe the drums of the war are ringing in his ears, even though it's not actually there. Yeah. Even if it's not actually there. Yeah. Mm. Hmm. Okay, I think maybe that's it for this one. Well, I guess reading this super complicated poem for the first one just made every other one seem like very simple. But there was so much to unpack for the very first poem with like the Zhuge Liang temple and stuff, right? And now everything else just seems like, oh, it's just very straightforward. Okay, let's try to do this for this final poem. Liu Zongren, from the city tower of Liuzhou, to my four fellow officials at Zhang Ting Feng Lian, Zhang Ding Feng and Lian districts, 登柳州城楼记张丁冯连四州刺史，城上高楼皆大荒，海天愁思正茫茫。金风乱斩芙蓉水，密雨斜倾碧丽墙。林树重遮千里目，江流曲似九回肠。 共来百越闻声地，犹自因书至异乡。At this lofty tower, where the town ends, wilderness begins, and our longing has as far to go as the ocean or the sky. Hibiscus flowers by the moat heave in a sudden wind, and vines along the wall are whipped with slanting rain. Nothing to see for 300 miles but a blur of woods and mountains, and the river's 9 loops twisted in our bowels. This is where they have sent us, this land of tattooed people, and not even letters to keep us in touch with home. So this guy sounds hella pissed. Okay, so what's the context of this? So him and his 4 friends, right? They were, okay. So they were in some political, I guess, movement, which didn't go well, and they got really like banished to just really not great places. Yeah, I think he's pretty famous for, as in this is a very famous author, Liu Zongren. And yeah, just I think he's really, really far away. And like that's why like this land of tattooed people, these are really like people that are not I think this would be closer to the south, I guess. Just so closer to like Southeast Asia. And it's just really different culture from yeah, what he's used to. And and his 4 fellow friends were also banished to just similar places, just places that are not just really far away from the center of the empire. And so it's really difficult. Like you must understand like you know, if you're far away from that, you don't have good access to like medicine or like infrastructure, and like your friends are far away, your family is far away. So it's really, really going through something. Yeah. So let's go line by line again. At this lofty tower where the town ends, wilderness begins, and our longing has as far to go as the ocean or the sky. So you see, it's not very developed, that place. So just right outside the town is just like jungle, right? And our longing has to go as far to go as the ocean or the sky. So he's very far away from the people he cares about. And hibiscus flowers by the moat heave in the sudden wind, and vines along the wall are whipped with slanting rain. So as someone who lives in Southeast Asia, I can attest that we always complain about bad weather. So yes, I can empathize. Yeah. And next, nothing to see for 300 miles but a blur of woods and mountain, and the river's 9 loops twisting in our bowels. This is where they have sent us, this land of tattooed people, and not even letters to keep us in touch with home. So I think the first, I really like this last line. So this first, he's just complaining about like his physical situation, right? He's like, you know, I'm not, yeah, just in this really undeveloped place. And it's just really tough to live there, and like difficult weather, just close to the wilderness. And yeah, and I mean, different people, like, and just this last part, he's like, wow, and I can't even like stay in touch with the people I care about. It's really, yeah, it's really tough, yeah, it's just wow. And so he's sending this to like his 4 friends, or in similarly rough positions. So yeah. So these are the only ones he can send letters to. People who are in similarly rough positions. It's really sad. I don't know. Feels bad for this guy. Yeah. Maybe if we have the time, let's take a look at like geographically where he is. I think he is in like Southeast Asia. Well, let's just look at Liu Zhongren's Wikipedia page, right? So this is the guy. Well, I guess they all look like Chinese guys to me. Like sometimes I'm like, oh, I guess, I don't know. It is kind of weird to see their faces though. They just look like normal people when like, whereas if you grow up in the culture, they're like legendary figures. Yeah. It's pretty wild to see like, oh, they're just, like I could imagine myself running into him down the street. Yeah. But okay, so where did he get banished to? So to Yongzhou, right? So this is Liuzhou. Okay. Let's just see where we have it. So I mean now it's pretty developed, but I wonder where is it on like the map. So here, let's look at the map. Right, you see, so it's very far to the south. So really like near Vietnam at this point. So I mean the center of Chinese culture would be like around here, right? So he's really like all the way down. And yeah, so you can see why he's not really happy. Yeah. Okay, maybe let's just look at the famous critics then. And yeah. Oh well. Not much. Nothing special, but nothing very insightful here. It's pretty clear he's complaining. So that he points out that, yeah, he's clearly unhappy, right? Yeah, just hoping that at least his friends in similar situations can empathize and I guess find solace in each other. Yeah. Then I guess that's really it for today. So that's the 10 poems. And wow, we've actually finished 300 Tang poems. And we've finished 300, but it's actually 320. So we have 20 more. So I guess we'll finish it just within the next 2 days. So I'm pretty excited, like since I've been doing this for, it can't be a whole year, but at least half a year, I guess. So yeah. All right, so excited to keep going for the last 2 days. And yeah, thanks so much for being here and I'll see you tomorrow. All right, bye.